for lesson 25, the game design process, we're going to look at a completed game project guide and use that to help us build a game, just like you will do when it is your turn to build your whole own game from scratch. But if we look at this project guide, let's just take a peek through it. It gives you a description of the game. It says you are an alien defending your cake from evil ladybugs. Ladybugs march across a bridge towards your cake. You'll need to push the ladybugs off the bridge into the water, get points for stopping ladybugs, and lose points for letting ladybugs get through. You can see there's a quick sketch of the game. And you can see there's water on either side, a bridge here. Looks like two ladybugs that are moving to the right, the main player, and a cake. Notice how they just use some rough shapes here. This is not about making some pretty drawing when we do a sketch. The sketch is always going to be just rough, loose shapes, labeling what things are. Then we move into the sprites and the variables, and here's where it gets a little bit more specific. So we can see that they've laid out a player, and the appearance is going to be an alien. We don't know which one, we just know it's going to be an alien at this point. And then it says where we want it to start. We're going to start at x300, y200, no rotation or velocity, and it says user and sprite interaction. So arrow keys move the sprite in 4 directions, displaces ladybugs. That gives me a big clue as to what code I'm going to be using when I come to the interactions between other sprites. There's a cake, and it's going to be at 350, 200. If you look up here, you can see that's where they were planning in their drawing up here. It never moves. When ladybugs touch, you lose points. So I can see that I'm going to have a variable in here to keep track of that. Enemy 1 is going to be a ladybug, and enemy 2 is going to be a ladybug. It looks like they have the same stuff going on here. Their x is going to be at 0, and their y is going to be a random number between 150 and 250, which tells me it's going to keep them right here on this bridge. So wherever your bridge is, we're going to have the ladybugs at that y location. And then it says that it's going to move across the screen from left to right. The player sprite can displace the ladybugs. If they hit the water, reset and give the player a point. If they hit the cake, reset and remove 5 points. So we're going to have another 2 ways to get or lose points. If one of the ladybugs touches the water, the player will get a point. If the ladybug touches the cake, then you take 5 points away, and that's for both of them. If you scroll down, you can see that there's variables. There's just one, the score, and it's keeping track of the player's score. It says it's going to start at 0. When a ladybug is pushed into the water, get a point. When the ladybug hits the cake, lose 5 points. Now, this is where it's different than any other planning we've done before. This is planning out some functions. So instead of having everything in the draw loop, we are going to have functions and call them in the draw loop, either by themselves or within an if, where we're checking a condition when we want that to occur. So let's look at what these functions are. Game background is going to draw the background of the game. We'll be able to just call that one in the main game loop because we're going to always want that to occur. Enemies touch cake. We're going to also call that. We're going to reset enemies when they touch the cake, decreasing the player's score. So in this one, there's one of 2 ways it could go. We could possibly be checking an if enemy 1 is touching cake and then call reset enemy, or it might be where it just calls this, and inside this function, it handles that if itself. You could do that either way, and it would totally be acceptable. Move player, that we will call all the time, and that will move the player with the arrow keys and change animations. So when we call the move player, inside the move player function, it's going to have some ifs in there, and it's going to be listening for when the keys are pressed down, up, down, left, and right. Displace enemies is going to push the ladybugs, so we will always call that one. Enemies touch water, so we can check to see if the enemies touch water, it will reset them and the player score is increased. Now we can check an if inside of the draw loop, or we could call the enemies touch water and have that if inside that function. And then the show score is always going to be there. So we're going to keep this open while we work through our game. I'm going to put that as a separate video though. I just wanted one video where we talk through the project guide, and then you'll be going through step by step here through planning your project. So this is an example that you can play. It's the exact game that you're going to build. So if you run it, you can see that you're this alien and you're going to push, and you want to push down to try and up and try to get these ladybugs. But as soon as they touch that cake, you are losing points. It's actually a really hard game. I'm not very good at it. So we went through the entire project guide. What you're going to do then is go through step by step, putting together the game using the project guide and all of the do this information. But again, I'm going to put that in a separate video.